Hey, everybody. Just wanted to share with you for a few minutes some things that I've learned over 29 years working in banking. I started when I was about 23, and now I'm over 50, which is kind of crazy. So it's been just about 29 years, and there's a few things that I've learned, especially when dealing with people. That's one of the most difficult things in a career is learning how to deal with people. I started as a teller, and I moved up and gained more abilities. I started at the front desk, helping people with just basic transactions. And then after about 22 years, I ended up as a vice president of lending at a almost $1 billion credit union with a lot of responsibilities. Basically, every single loan that we made, I was responsible for, and I reported all of those activities and all of those loans on a monthly basis to the board of directors. That was filled with seven, eight, 9 people that were all very professional people. So it was a great experience. And so there's some things I'd love to share with you. One of the biggest things that I enjoyed about the career was meeting new people and making lifelong friends. So if I can persuade you to stay until the end of the video, I will share some information if you're just turning 18, how you can go about creating a credit report of your own and getting a credit score. It's difficult to do so because most of the time it requires someone extending credit to you, and they don't want to do that because you have no credit. So it's very difficult. So for 20 plus years, I worked at a very small credit union in Salt Lake. There were only, in some cases, 2 or 3 of us working, depending on if someone was on vacation. I think at one time we had 4 employees, so it was a very small credit union, which was a benefit to me. I learned a lot. I learned a lot in this small environment because I was doing everything. I was helping on the front line. I was helping do loans, uh, mortgage loans, personal loans, RVs, all types of loans. I was helping to run ACH in the morning and draft processing in the evening. ACH meaning automatic clearinghouse. That's how you get paid your direct deposit money. And I was also helping with government reporting, audits, balancing the books. Had a lot of exposure, a lot of experience, and I learned through many years of working there that when it came around annually to talking about raises, the only way I could show that I was worth more money is I had more value. The board would not respond to, well, just pay me more money. So, I mean, it makes sense. If I want $90,000 in pay, I have to be able to show that kind of value to them. So, learning these skills and becoming more proficient at a job applies in any industry. My son worked for Little Caesars for about a year, and, I was telling him about this. If you can learn from A to Z about the operation of that business, he learns the drive up, and he learns the front end. He learns landing pizzas and making pizzas, maybe even gets into, hey, supervisor, manager, I've learned these things. What else can I do? Show me how the ordering process goes. Show me how the bookkeeping goes. Show me the numbers, show me more. As you excel in each of those duties, your value goes up. And then if your value goes up, your pay should do the similar thing. And so it's not about asking the government to pay you more money in a minimum wage. It's about increasing your value. And it has nothing, as a matter of fact, that mandate by the government affects minimum wage people worse than if they had not gotten involved. Anyway, we don't want to get involved with that. But first tip. So how do you talk to somebody and tell them no If someone's sitting in front of you and they're applying for a loan, how do you tell them no and without them getting all upset? A lot of times I would have someone in front of me and I would be looking at their credit and their pay and their employment and all that they were asking for, and I would know there's no way. There's no way we can do this loan. It doesn't make any sense. But instead of being kind of rude, brash, I would say things like, hey, give me some time. Let me talk to the committee. Let me talk to the other managers. Let's see what we can do. And I would call them the next day and I would never tell them no. I would say, we could probably do this loan if you can get someone else involved, like a co-signer, mom or dad. We can do this loan if you can offer more collateral. But the way it was presented, I couldn't get it to go through. So helpful. Tip number 2, when someone's sitting in front of your desk, this goes with any business, if they came into your office, they're applying for a new account, for a new loan, that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get to know somebody. It's an opportunity to make a new friend. You know, and it's very interesting. Even the bank I work at now, I kind of watch some of the operations people and what they do, and I hear a lot of silence. The guy I used to work with many years ago, he was the president of the bank, but that wasn't really his strong point. I would listen as someone was sitting in his office and he was taking a loan application or doing something, and just the basics, you know, where do you work? What's your address? How much do you make? Um, but that's an opportunity. So what do you do? Well, ask them. Just start talking. See, tell me about your kids. Tell me about your work. How long have you been married? Where did you get married? You know, how long have you known each other? Where are you from? You know, all that stuff. There's an opportunity. They can go and do their business anywhere that they want, and they probably get about the same terms, about the same rates, same fees as they can get from you. The reason they're going to come to you is because you need to be more on a friendship level. You need to show them that you care. So that's the other tip. How do you show somebody that you care? It's basically like I've been saying. Ask them all those questions. Ask them about how they're doing. Ask them about the kids. Ask them about their schooling. Ask them about, and then the next time you see them, say, "Hey, now how's it going in your school? How's the master's program going? How's your son doing at his basketball?" Just remember those things and ask him about them. So another thing that was really kind of awkward, and it took me a while to figure out the best approach. No one taught me this. I'm giving this to you freely. Hopefully it's helpful. But if you're ever involved with collections, how do you do that? How do you collect money from somebody that doesn't have a lot of money? Are they falling behind in payments? Tip: put yourself in their shoes. So how would I feel? How would I feel if I was behind in payments? How would I feel if I just lost a job and I wasn't paying a lot of people? There'd be a lot of stress. So when you call somebody, you have to call them with that's your purpose. Show them some kindness, show them some concern. Call and say, hey, I understand it looks like you've fallen behind on some car payments. What can we do to help you get caught up with things? You know, you could say, you could take the other approach and say, hey, you're a deadbeat, you're worthless, what is going on? You signed the paper, you signed right here. What is the deal? Why aren't you paying? And put them on the defensive. How well is that going to go? What are the results? And your results will not be very favorable. Another key phrase, this is another huge phrase you can use anywhere in your life, not just in collections, but any difficult situation where someone's very upset, a husband and wife, a son and daughter. You listen to what they're saying and you say, and it has to be from your heart, and say it, but you have to say, I understand what you're saying. If I were you, I would feel that same way too. I mean, what does that do? What does that change? Well, number one, you're validating their feelings. You're diffusing the situation. So emotions and stress are way up here. And so you're taking it down a level by saying, I understand, and tell them, I've been in a position like that. It's a very hard situation. If you haven't been in that situation, don't lie about it, but uh, put yourself in their shoes. So, I mean, this leads to another huge life lesson, another tip. If you have problems, financial problems in your life, don't run from them. It only makes them worse. Take courage. If you're having financial problems, go in and talk to the bank in person. Don't ignore the problem. Like I say, it only makes it worse. How is that possible? So let's say you have lost your job and you've missed a couple payments, and the bank starts calling you. And if you ignore their calls, what's going to happen? Well, they'll come probably repossess your car. And let's say you owe about $10,000 on that car. They're going to sell it at auction for maybe like $4,000. And they're going to go after you for the difference for the $6,000. Not good. Let's say, for example, you take the other option where you go into the bank and tell them what's happened. Hey, I've lost my job. I can make one out of the three payments. What can you do to help me? And can you give me 60 days to try to find another job? Can you give me a couple of more months? I can guarantee if you go in with that attitude of help me out, they'll work with you. If that collection agent doesn't is not willing to help, ask for a supervisor. I guarantee they do not want your car back. They know what will happen and be left with a balance, and it's hard to collect. So let's say there's another option. You decide that you can live with just one car, and so you tell them, I'm going to sell a car on my own. I can probably get $7,000 or $8,000 if I sell it. What can you do? Because they have the title. You say, sure, sell the car, and then when you sell it, we will refinance that $2,000 for low payments, uh, and then you'll only be obligated to pay, a much smaller payment. I mean, you'll still have some late payments on your credit, but what have you done? You've salvaged a relationship with that bank that could have gone south if you hadn't paid anything. So even when you're done back on your feet, you'll still have a relationship with a bank that will loan you money. Whereas if you ignore it, the problem gets worse. Then not only will that bank not loan you money, but most of the other institutions that look at your credit will not loan you money. The other thing that you've proven to the bank is they can trust you with their money. You're telling them, even when my life went into the toilet and I was having a lot of problems, I still paid you the money that I owed. I have integrity. My word and my signature means something. Matter of fact, you can probably go back to that same bank and in a year down the road, you could just go in and say, hey, everything seems to be good now. Will you help me on those late payments that show up on my credit report? Can you remove those or some of those? It would help my score go up. And a lot of times, because you've been good on your part, they will help you out with that. Talking about integrity, well, let me share with you a story about a guy I'll call by the name of John. He uh, was in his 20s, probably about the same age as I was back then when I was working there. And he came into the credit union. He was so excited. He had found a truck that was probably worth about $40,000, and it was for sale for about half that, $24,000. And by the way, this is a good life lesson. If something's too good to be true, it probably is not true. It's fraud. So, I looked at it. I looked at the um, information. He said, "Hey," I told him I was concerned about it. He said, "Don't worry. This is a good deal. All of my money goes to an escrow title company first, and then they hold the money. And then as soon as I get the truck and the title, they'll release those funds to the seller." I said, "Well, if you've done your homework, we're not here to be your mom or your dad. We'll loan the money." Well, as soon as that money was wired to that title company, everything disappeared. He There was no contact information left. The business was not legit. He lost the money. What did he do? I'm sure he panicked and he was very upset. But what he did was important. He came in to the bank and told us what happened and asked for help. And did we take a hard nose approach? No, we felt terrible for him. We tried to do everything we could. We went to the board and specifically got his loan approved to extend it out for a 10-year term and to charge him to change his rate from whatever it was to zero. So he paid us $200 for 10 years. Talk about integrity. Would you do that? Your word and what you said you would do, I hope, is worth more than $200 a month. He did it. And when he made that last payment, I wanted to cry, or at least send him on a cruise or something. But I know what a lot of you are thinking. So, well, that's not fair. The bank should just forgive that loan. They can afford it. It's just a business. No one gets hurt. What's the big deal? Well, that's messed up thinking, and that's where our society is these days. Yes, it does affect people. But you say, well, he's paying $200 a month for nothing. Yeah. Maybe you say, well, I think the government should force you to do the right thing and just eat it. Just take the money and not try to collect the money. And yeah, the bank could have done that. But the lesson that he learned and the integrity that he proved to himself and to us was worth more than $200 a month. He signed the note saying he would pay us back. He paid us back the money. Let's think about that. When you become parents, what would happen is if every time your son or daughter made a mistake, you came up and said, "Hey, don't worry about it. I know you screwed up, but I'm going to fix this. Don't worry about it." So you're removing all the consequences. How messed up would your son or daughter be? I think you would find as they progressed in life, those problems that they would face in life would only get worse and worse as you took that pain away from them, those consequences. And it kind of reminds me of that quote by Tony Robbins. He said, "Change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change." And I believe that. I believe most of us just don't like to change. So you're robbing your kids of that lesson to learn and from their mistakes and the improvement that they would make if you take away the consequences. So another tip, how do you supervise people? What should you do? What if you're in a management position over people that are older than you too? It's awkward. I managed about 25 loan officers over 9 branches in 2 states. That sounds like a lot, and it was a lot of responsibility. But a lot of those people were in one office, and I had a lot of responsibility there. But I did learn that in that job, you have to set very clear expectations of what that job entails and what goals you want to see them hit, what team goals you have, and how they can help the team meet those goals. Another thing that's very, very important is talk to them, listen to them, ask them what their goals, career goals are, set out a path for them and help them achieve those things so they feel like they have a future. Another huge tip, don't talk behind people's backs. The environment you're trying to present at work is a safe environment. They don't want to feel like, what's going to happen if I take a day off? Who's going to be talking about me? All these rude and mean things. Safe environment. You've got to have that. If you're in management, like I say, if you've got someone that comes to you and says, you know, this is how I feel about the manager, the president of this bank. He is a total piece of work. It would not be wise as you as a manager say, well, you don't know the half of it. He is terrible. And let me give you another 5 examples. That is a good path for you if you want to be fired really fast. Don't do it. If you've got issues with what's going on in the management team who you're a part of, take it up with your fellow managers, not with coworkers that only spread gossip. Be very careful. Present a united front with your other management team. Don't let them think they can come to you and undermine somebody else. So that brings up another point. Good tip. If you're looking for a job and interviewing, see if you can talk to some of the other coworkers, or as you're waiting in the office, pay attention to how people are treating each other and see if you can talk to somebody. What kind of environment is it? Are they a people helping people environment? Are they an environment where everyone's trying to poke out each other's eyes so they can try to get ahead so the other person can't see? So, final point you've all been waiting for. When you turn 18, what should you do to build some credit? The first thing you should do is get your parents, go into the bank or credit union where they bank, and say, have them say, I would like to add my son or daughter to this car loan they've had for 3 or 4 years. If they don't have a car loan, that's fine. I would like to add my son or daughter to this credit card that we've had for a number of years. As an authorized signer, as a co-signer, like to have them have the credit, and they might even issue your son or daughter a credit card. I would not really advise giving the card to them. You don't want them spending money on your card, but it will give them the credit that they need. If that's not an option, third option, and you can do all 3 of these. I've done these with my sons, and it's very helpful. The third option, to do a secured loan. So if I've got $500 or $1,000, I can deposit that into my account and tell the bank, hold these monies, and I would like to apply for a credit card for 500 or 1,000, whatever you have in your account. And if I don't pay, you can take that money. It's called a secured credit card, but it shows up in your credit regardless if it's secured or unsecured. You get the same amount of credit. You don't even have to use the card. But after about 6 or 8 months of having that card, you can probably go back to the bank and say, hey, I've been good. Can you release that money? And a lot of times it will. So, great way to build a credit score within just a few months. Probably get something in the 700s. If you've got 3 or 4 trade lines, maybe you've got a car loan, just reporting for your parents, their credit card, your own secured loan. You know, if you've got a few trade lines, that will give you some credit. And everything, most things are credit score driven. Your car insurance, when you get that, the rates that you pay are based on credit score. The car loans, the mortgage loans, all based on a credit score. So that score is very important. Start building at 18. I hope this helps. Thanks.